From the housing crisis to lower than ever per capita GDP, or at least constantly declining per capita GDP, many have raised their red flags about Canada's economic future and productivity problems. But one professor says despite its shortcomings, Canada might not be as bad off as it seems. Let's bring in Peter Phillips, professor at the Johnson Shoyama Graduate School of Public Policy at the University of Saskatchewan. Thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Good afternoon.
You address, it's a piece in the Globe, you address two particular metrics. One is the apparently low level of research spending by Canadian companies. Can you enlarge on that, why you think people should look past the number?
Yeah, there's a logic that's fairly sound that says that we need research to invent new products, new technologies, new ways of organizing our markets so that we can produce more with less. Canada's done very well in that in the long run. We, relative to many leading countries, don't invest as much as they do as a percentage of the total economy. And a lot of people say, well, that means we need to ramp up investment. A big part of the gap isn't that the firms we have here aren't investing on a parallel, in a comparative way to other firms in other countries. It's that we just don't have some of the sectors that are really heavy investors in R&D. And the short list is pretty much anything to do with computers. That's differentially in parts of Asia and the United States. Mm-hmm. Autos, we have auto producers, but we don't have R&D offices. Airlines, we have a little bit in Bombardier, but pretty much everything else is located in the United States and Europe. And pharmaceuticals is the last one. Mm-hmm. Those sectors invest 10 to 20% of their gross revenues in R&D. The sectors we have that are world competitive, 1% makes you a leading investor in research and development. And in most of our sectors, we're doing that.
Big resource sectors, for example.
Yes, yeah. Agriculture, mining, forestry. And that's not to say we shouldn't be doing more in those sectors, mm-hmm. but we don't need to be investing 10 to 15% of our gross receipts in R&D to have the impacts that we need to remain competitive.
I know we could argue this both ways, but shouldn't we have more of those industries that are research intensive, such as pharmaceuticals? And shouldn't we have big research? We do have some auto research in this country. I think GM does development.
Bits, and there's no question that in a perfect world, we'd like more, but we're one of 190 some countries that all would like more. And firms are not convinced by just saying, I'm a good place to do business. They want it to fit within their global production chains. And for those sectors where we are a core part of the production chains, we have a credible case for them to do research in Canada. But just getting them to do more research in Canada won't necessarily bring more industry into Canada. And we've invested heavily in a number of those sectors in the past, and it hasn't changed the economic footprint of those sectors in Canada. So it just is what it is. Some sectors are highly concentrated in terms of their central office functions.
Now let's get into this per capita thing, because we keep hearing, well, we should look at per capita GDP, per capita consumption. But you say our population's grown so rapidly that it's likely our per capita metrics would come under pressure. Yeah,
it's inevitable. I mean, we're bringing in more people than we brought in for a couple of generations as a percentage of our economy or of our population base, and a lot more than almost any of the countries we're comparing ourselves in terms of per capita GDP. And undoubtedly, the first year or two of migrants' time in Canada, they're getting established. They're probably consuming more than they're producing. But the economics of immigration suggests that immigrants over their life cycle are major contributors to the wealth of our economy. So this is a transitional one, and it's sort of the tail end of the dog. What we're really interested in is productive, efficient, competitive economy that generates the wealth that we need. And that's not going down. It is going up. It's not going up as fast as our population base, but it's still rising. And so that's what we should be focused on. This is sort of a residual. So how are we doing in the long run? And so we should think of it as a long-term problem, not as a month-to-month or year-to-year problem of where per capita incomes are.
What about, sorry.
I'm a growth theorist, and some people say it's really important to focus on the short-term stuff, things like what's the interest rate, how much are we spending on subsidies for specific firms. That's all very well, but that's like worrying about the weather. The weather comes and goes. It's up and down like a yo-yo, and economic measures are like that. I've spent my life forecasting some of these variables. But what we're really interested in is long-term productivity, and there are some discouraging things in our economy, but they're not illuminated by looking at these aggregate numbers that people are talking about.
Just finally, though, we do hear that there are barriers, interest groups. For example, some professions make it very hard for new arrivals in Canada to qualify. What about that? Do those cartels need to be broken up?
Ooh, that's one of the many solutions people offer to improve our productivity in Canada. You know, we were founded as a confederation of provinces that formed Canada, and we have a division of powers. And we can try and change that division of powers, but right now the professions are differentially regulated at the provincial level. Mm-hmm. It would be great if we could improve the flow of skilled and educated people into our professions, and many provinces are making an effort to improve that. But it's a constitutional reality. It doesn't stop us from doing a lot of things in the economy that can improve the fit between those who want to migrate to Canada and the jobs and the economic opportunities that are here. So I think that's another storyline that one could have around this. I didn't explicitly get into it in the article, but it's important.